Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our Dementia Journey podcast. Today, I have a very special guest, Alex Hanham with Medpoint. He's the CEO of Medpoint. Alex, maybe I could ask you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Is this a setup? Am I on a dementia journey right now? Is this an intervention? Is this an intervention?
Yeah.
I probably am. So where do you want to start? Both my parents suffered from Alzheimer's. I was asked to be a member of the committee. I could start with my father, I guess.
Yeah, let's maybe start at the beginning. Yeah.
So my dad showed some irregular behavior around 58, 57. Found that, which ironically I'm almost at now, it's closing in on those dates. And he would get a little bit more angry, more frustrated. He'd act out in different ways. As a son, physically the same size as him, I think we would get into more physical altercations, and like teenage boys and their son and their fathers were not going to see eye to eye. But it always felt like there was something off, and it was a little bit more. Eventually, he had an incident at work where he had an altercation with a coworker, lost his position, lost his job at 59. Was pretty devastated by that, and very interesting that at 59 years of age, my dad never had university education. He lived through the war, so he didn't really get a chance to get a lot of education. All the education he did was through college that he did as he went along, as he immigrated from England. And he really found that there was really no other prospects for him. So he kind of stayed at home and took over the home duties, while my mom, Maggie, was a registered nurse, and she was always working. She was the breadwinner of the family. And then my mom, we'd always noticed that my dad would be, very temperamental and things. And then my mom, I was coming home from London to Burlington where they lived, and she said, would you like to, my mom called me. She said, just, your dad's been acting a little weird. And I'm like, weirder than normal? And she's like, yeah. And he said he's seeing people, and he's really getting bad at nighttime. And my wife, who's a physician, medical director at Medpoint, said that's sundowning. And this is what I was worried about, that he might be early onset of Alzheimer's. And then sure enough, we went back, and he was definitely, he admitted, he said, yeah, I see this woman walks around the house and I don't know who she is. And he got really quite bad and a little bit momentarily violent towards my mom, which is very sad. And eventually she reported that. And then when they had to come take his driver's license away from him, which was another loss of autonomy, they formed him. And they ended up taking him away in the police car, not because he did anything, but because he might do something. And he ended up going to, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, wow, that's a lot.
It was tough to deal with. What
kind of time frame was this?
We had started Medpoint, so this would have been maybe 2008, 2009. I had some connections in the healthcare world at that point, and I called someone who was on the board at the hospital and said, my dad's, they've taken him into the hospital, and my mom called and said he's still in the emergency room 24 hours later, and they put him essentially in a padded room.
Yeah.
And I said, I called him, I said, look, my dad's been in emergency for 24 hours. Can you, and within, he made a few calls and they got him his own room. And so that night we went and saw him, and they had completely, snowed him, right? Just given him enough medication to knock out an elephant, which my dad was a big boy, so probably required. And, I never, you get certain memories about this, and bringing my young daughter down there and her looking at her papa and going, and just, thinking what, he's just slumped over in the chair. And then her coming up and said, is Papa dead? Right?
Oh, no.
It was just like very matter of fact. She was like, is he dead?
And how
And
old
I'm
would she have been?
probably 4 or 5.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe 5. So a week later, they released him from hospital, and he was my dad again. It was amazing. No problems. The medications were perfect.
Great.
He didn't remember anything.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, maybe this isn't Alzheimer's. Maybe this is just a quirk he had or something. And I was so relieved to think, we maybe dodged a bullet here. Maybe it's okay.
Yeah.
But within 6 months, the medications either stopped working or he stopped taking them or whatever. And it just got worse and worse and worse. And eventually my mom had to basically drive him to the hospital and trick him to go into the hospital. And they were ready for him at the hospital, and they took him out again. And he stayed in the hospital for 9 months. And when you're in the hospital, there's a challenge because you're safe. And you've got a bed, and you've been admitted, and you're getting your 3 squares a meal.
Yeah.
So you're not on the priority list any longer to get into the homes because you're not a danger to yourself. You're not a danger to others. You're there. But as we all know with our healthcare system and our hospital beds, that bed's needed for other people. And so
In times of change now, they prioritize that.
yeah, yeah. And so eventually I was able to make a few calls, and we got him into a nursing home here in London. Wasn't here. He made it about 2 weeks in there, and then unfortunately got too grabby with a couple of nurses with their wrists, and he got discharged. They sent him to regional mental health, to Vic. They gave him 1 more week, and then back at the home, and then they kicked him out to regional mental health. And within a year, he had aspirated and caught pneumonia. And my mom made the decision that maybe this is the way to go, and the advice of the physicians. And pneumonia is sometimes a friend of the Alzheimer's patient. And so he passed away. And it was kind of interesting to see at the very end. I was there right for the last minute. And my mom visited him every day. She was incredibly devoted to my dad. And during that time when she wasn't visiting my dad, she lived just across the road here. And she said, well, when my time comes, I'm going to go to McCormick home. And because it's right there and it'll be easy for everyone. And I'm like, well, it doesn't really work that way, Mom, but okay. So she bought a house right here, and she volunteered here. And so she would help in the day program. And she went and visited my dad every day. It was nice to see my dad off of all the medications in his last week of life.
Yeah.
And I feel he became more coherent, more in touch, and went very, very peacefully. He actually went when my mom and the nurse and the reverend from St. Anne's Church came in, and my mom was in the choir, and they started singing Amazing Grace. And I just watched my dad as my mom and the reverend sang Amazing Grace. And he looked over at them, and he just died as they were singing to him, and which was always his favorite hymn. And his mom's name was Grace. My daughter's middle name is Grace. So big, and of course we sang it at the funeral. We had Denise Pelley sing it at the funeral. So, just interrupt me whenever you want. But
Yeah, well. So I'm slowly processing some of this information. I get the sequences of events, and I also can understand how you. Just from a survival perspective, right? It becomes matter of fact. This is what happened, how it happened, when it happened, and but I can't imagine. So your mom moved from Burlington to London when you brought your dad here to move into long-term care.
Yeah.
And so
don't even talk to me about the real estate debacle we had on that. We sold a house in Burlington for under $300,000. It was worth $1 million 4 years later.
Yeah.
So probably, and at the time we just even think, don't ever sell property. For all the viewers out there, don't ever sell property. Hold on to property.
Hold tight.
So my mom really got sort of like a new lease on life. My dad was a pretty controlling guy, a very dominant guy, and she loved that man, more than he deserved. And but my mom was always such a sweetheart and kind, gentle woman. And so she got a couple of years. So he had passed. Her obligation to him had, sort of gone with him. And now she could spend more time with her grandchildren, and she could go off on trips. And they always went on very nice trips to the Caribbean, but modest trips.
Yeah.
And now we could take her along with us to, some of the nicer places that we were going, the 5-star resorts or the villas in Jamaica and things. So my mom loved to be spoiled, and it was.
I don't know anybody who doesn't. Like to be
but
spoiled.
she would very much. She liked your sweets. She liked being taken care of. She liked being doted on. She liked being taken care of, and there was times where she made sure her, are you taking care of me as well as you should be taking care of me? Like, get me that cookie, or something like that. And she'd always have this little face of, "Ooh, that's nice." And so taking her to some of the places that we were able to take her was just fantastic for me to be able to have her experience that.
Can I go back just again? So around 2008, and then what year did your dad pass?
2010.
So that was a lot that happened.
A very short amount of time.
Yeah.
I would say, he died at 79. So now that I think about it, probably the first symptoms might have been 59.
Right.
And then, I guess I probably skipped through a lot of times. He got let go from his position when I was in university. And so, and then I was 50 or 40 when he died. 40? Let me think about that. 2009. How old am I now?
Yeah.
I was 40. Yeah, I was 40 when he passed away. So, what's that? 20 years? 21 years. 21 years, I guess we dealt with it. So it wasn't early onset, I don't think. However, you look back at what things may have caused it. Fatty foods, aluminum pots. They never really did a lot of exercise. And, and I think probably just not being as social. My dad wasn't as social. He could hold a conversation, but he was pretty much a loner and very... he had his moments, that's for sure.
Well, and just really recently, so many studies are coming out about the social impact and the need for companionship and for participating in social activities.
When you talk about some of the most important organs that you have, of course, is your brain and your heart, and your lungs, of course. But one of the ones that is surprising is your thighs. Your thigh muscles are very, very important, because if you have strong thigh muscles, you're able to stand. And if you're able to stand, you're more mobile. And if you're more mobile, you're more social. So that's one of the things, we're developing a senior care program. And that's one of the things we're focusing on is strength. And it's core strength from falling, thighs, making sure people are physically fit so that they can participate in society and be more social. You talk about the date. So when the doctor said, and my mom made the decision that maybe it was time for him to go, I said, okay, well, how long will this take? And they said, well, he won't eat, so it'll just be a very slow process. He said, could be 5 days, could be a week, could be 9 days. And this was late June of 2010. So I'm looking up at the calendar, and it's like, okay, what do we got here? And the month of June is the month of Alex, where we have Father's Day, my birthday, and then our anniversary, all within a 4-day period.
Oh, yeah, wow.
21st, 22nd, and 24th. And so we're like, okay, which one are you going to hit? Which day is always going to be connected with you? Because we know it's going to be one of them.
Yes.
And so we thought it was going to be Father's Day, and he rallied, so he didn't do that. And I'm like, oh, you're going to take out my birthday, Dad? And no, he made it through the birthday. And I had a beer with him, and I remember saying, I'm leaving. I got to go, Dad. And I said, okay, I'll see you tomorrow. And he went, all right, mate. And I'm like, oh, damn it. I said, I can go out on all right, mate.
Yes.
And I said, if I never hear another word from him. And I think that might have been Actually, that may have been the last things he did end up saying to me. And then, anyway, he nailed the anniversary. So, on our 10-year anniversary, when he was never a big fan of celebrations, so he decided to put his mark on that one.
Right.
So every year we celebrate, we acknowledge my dad, and then we celebrate our anniversary on the same day. Going back to my mom, so we started noticing after a couple of years, we started noticing her, leaving the kettle on, leaving the burner on, for being a little forgetful of things, repeating things, dish soap. She would. I've seen many commercials where someone keeps coming by and the husband keeps coming home with lemons. And
right.
She's already got 1 million lemons, but he keeps thinking we're out of lemons. Well, for my mom, that was dish soap. So I think she had 12 or 15 bottles of dish soap, and which we took eventually. So we're still going through it, I think. So.
Can I share with you my mother-in-law, although never officially diagnosed, but anyways, we've since learned that there was, whether it was Alzheimer's, some form of dementia was there, but hers was not dish soap. It was those, those Kleenex holders that go on the visor in the car?
Yeah.
She was convinced that they were a scarcity.
Right.
And they probably were, because she bought all she could find in London.
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
When they moved from their home and I don't know, there was probably like 50 of them.
Yeah.
There was a lot.
Yeah.
And anyways.
Yeah. It's weird that, if anyone's listening and watching and dealing with someone who's going through this, it's so funny that it's the same. Everyone's got a different item,
yes,
right? And that,
and maybe a couple of them.
Yeah. So we started noticing, and then I think my wife said, "I don't think I want your mom driving the kids anymore." And I said, "Yeah, I think that's a good idea." And we took her on a couple more vacations, but we started noticing some difficulties, and she fell a couple of times, and we had a really nice arrangement where we said, she actually knew her geriatrician, and I swim with her, and I did swim with her, and Dr. Sherry Lynn Kane, and up at Parkwood. And I brought her in for the thing, and she had said, "Alex, we're going to have to start talking about the license." And I'm like, "I understand. We'll talk about that." And came back for the next meeting. She's like, "Okay." So we talked about the license, and I'm like, "Yeah, we're still talking about it." She's like, "No, I have to take her license now." And I'm like, and my mom's like, "What's happening?" And I was like, "Oh no," because even though we knew this was coming, all of a sudden we know what that means. Is that now she's going to be totally dependent on us. Even though she lived around the corner from us and she could come see us, now we'll have to go pick her up. We'll have to go take her grocery shopping.
Well, and for your mom too, to feel like now I can imagine feeling like you're imposing upon family.
Well, my mom was okay with that part.
Oh.
Mom was okay with that part. She was like, "Oh, good, I get a chauffeur now." She did not like losing her license.
Right, she's pampered.
Right,
yes.
Yeah. But when I did bring it up and started to argue it, Sherry Lynn just looked me dead in the eye. She's like, "Alex, does she drive your girls?" And I went, "Oh, nuts." Right? And my mom said, "Yes, I do. I drive the girls." I said, "Mom, you haven't driven the girls in 6 months." And she's like, "Haven't I?" And I'm like, "No, we stopped you driving it. And if we're going to stop it for our girls, Sherry Lynn's right." And I said, because, we can't have you out there driving. So
I think it's a super fascinating thing, though, on the driver's license. So many people touch on it.
Yep.
And I think sometimes, I think about it after the fact, because as an outsider looking in, it seems like such a practical, logical next step.
Absolutely.
But from depending on who the individual is, but for all kinds of different reasons, it has such a big connotation. And if you were to try to put yourself in that spot,
it's hard to imagine. It's not just it's a independence card. Is what it is. And you're basically handing in your independence card.
Yeah.
And it's very emotional. It's an emotional day for everyone because, we're running a very busy business, and both my wife and I obviously both work at MedPoint, and it's we've a lot of employees, we got young kids, we're having to deal with those challenges, and now we have to do this. So we actually put together a really good plan where the Boys and Girls Club was fantastic, and they would pick my mom up in the morning and they would take her to the Boys and Girls Club. She'd sing in the choir, she'd have lunch, she'd go for a swim, and then around 2:00, she'd get back on the bus. They would take her to our fitness center, and one of my trainers would give her some exercises for the day.
Yeah.
And where we have this great picture of her stealing the fruit, because we had no idea where all their fruit was going. And we kept saying, we keep buying all this fresh fruit and it's always gone. And then we have this picture of Ron, who was trainer, who said, I found the fruit thief. And it was my mom. She had about 3 or 4 bananas and stuff she was taking with her. And we
you have to share that
it was, we've had it on, I will share it. And it's one of my favorite photos of her, because it's just my mom to a T. And she would say, she felt totally justified on it, because it's like, I'm the mother. I'm the mother of the owners of MedPoint, so I can steal whatever I want. I have that right. Don't you, Ron Young? Tell me I can't have these. So despite all her fruit theft, we would still have a meal ready for her when she got back. We had a partnership on a place that made meals. And Anissa, who used to own the Braywick Bistro, was a good friend of ours, and she was making meals, and we had a bit of a side business with her. And she'd bring her a nice meal every day. But it was the clock is ticking. And my mom, we have a lovely place up in Grand Bend, and my mom loved it, just loved Grand Bend. But she would think that we would bring her up there all the time, and usually on weekends. And she would get confused. And every time Anissa would come over to bring a meal, she'd be at the front doorstep with her bags packed. And she'd be like, oh, I don't need the meal tonight. Alex is taking me up to we call it the villa. And it's just heartbreaking. And we'd have to come back, and I'd have to call her. I said, no, Mom, it's Tuesday. We're not going up. And, and then there's all the other challenges that come with you have incontinence issues and safety issues, and just basic hygiene and forgetting to do things. And, it was still getting along okay, but then the Boys and Girls Club called us and said, Alex, we lost your mom for 2 hours. She got outside. We couldn't find her. Oh. She came in. She had all this mud on her coat.
I'm glad she came back.
Yeah. And so it's like, we can't. And I said, okay, I'll make sure she doesn't go outside. And then she had an incident where she choked on some water in the pool. She sank to the bottom of the pool. They dove in, they grabbed her and pulled her out. And they said, Alex, this is getting a bit much. And then they said, we can't have her go in that pool. We'll have her go in a different pool.
And what year would that have been?
Oh, gosh. I'm going to go 2016, maybe 2017. Maybe 2016.
Yeah.
And then one day they just found her, said we can't find her. And then they found her, said we found her, but they changed changing rooms. She wasn't used to it, and she was just sitting on the bench naked for 2 hours, just sitting there, not knowing where to go. And they said, we don't have the resources. We love your mom, but we can't have her here.
Yeah.
So that ended a number of different things for her. And
this is just super crazy. I love your candor, and I think for people listening, they can relate, I'm sure, in many different ways. But it's just hard for me to fathom trying to manage all of that, all at the same time as your business, worrying about getting the phone call in the middle of the day.
Well, my wife was fantastic. She, being a medical doctor and also just being the person that she is, did a lot and really was there for her. And she would go over there and she'd comb her hair and stuff. And our girls were great as well. But I think they had a hard time sort of accepting it. They saw this. My oldest daughter knew my dad. My youngest really didn't. And so you go through that. There are challenges. As I said, there's challenges. Everyone's busy. And we were lucky in as much that at least to a certain extent, when you're a business owner, you have the opportunity, the illusion that you can control your day.
Mhm.
And so
Well, at least you can time shift a little better.
you can time shift a little bit better. And if you've
Mhm.
got a good team, we've always had a great team at MedPoint. So been able to, get to certain appointments and things like that. But we knew the writing was on the wall. And I had a friend who gave us some advice about how to get into, get to the list.
Mhm.
And again, I don't know how it is now, but there was 5 places, and they said, where do you, my mom only wants to go to McCormick Home,
Mhm.
right? And so we put McCormick Home as first, and then you had to pick 4 of the names. I'm like, shit. And we looked at other places as well, but she said, he only wants to go to McCormick Home, and I know that's not the way it works. You don't really get to hold out. And then the first call came in, but we're in a desperate situation now where
Yeah.
we had some people, we had some home care in there, but we were having them in for 3 to 4 hours a day.
Mhm.
So that was, that bill is growing and growing and growing, and my mom was, had a modest income to pay for it, or modest savings,
Mhm.
but it was still, we knew that's not, you can't be there all the time.
Yeah.
Right. And we know if you're there 24 hours a day, which you probably possibly needed,
Yeah.
you're looking at $30,000 a month. Right. So
Mhm.
definitely, and we partner with Home Instead,
Oh yeah.
and they took care of my mom for a while as well.
Mhm.
And then they called and they said, we have a place. And so we went to the first place. It wasn't here. And I walked in and I said, I'll go look at it. And I walked in and I couldn't get out of there fast enough. And it's, I won't obviously say who it was, but it was just, I'm like, I could not fathom putting her in here. And my wife, but we were also in a situation where we needed something.
Yes.
And I said, I'm sorry, I'm going to decline it. We're not going to take that. And they called the next day and said, we have an opening in McCormick Home.
Oh wow.
And we're like, you're kidding. It was almost like just winning a lottery ticket. She was so happy. And when, like, I don't think most people are excited about going to a McCormick Home or not, to a long-term care facility. My mom beamed. She was like, I'm going there. And I'm like, yep, they're going to take care of you. And she was so happy. She couldn't wait to go. And she needed the stimulation. She needed to be around people. She knew McCormick Home. She remembered that she had volunteered there, and she's like, it's like I'm right home, right? And unfortunately, with the horrible nature of this disease, even though she used to live, she can see her house from the dining room in Old Oak. She can look out. We can see her old place across the road, but she didn't know she used to live there, right? So I'm like, that's where you used to live. I did, right? So, so this is dementia. My mom had mixed vascular dementia and Alzheimer's, but again, you never really know, right?
Yeah.
All you know is that the person you love is being robbed from you very, very slowly. It's very difficult, and then you always feel guilty. Like it's like I should go more often. I should, and then, but every time you go, it's also a reminder of you're going through this again. And you always feel like you're not doing enough. And my grandmother had it. My dad's mother had it before, and after a particularly difficult day one time, because that's what our Saturdays were. We would go on Saturday or Sunday. And I was 14, and my dad turned to me and he said, you put a bullet in my head. He goes, you don't put me in one of these places. And because it was in Burlington, and again, they were doing the best they could.
Yeah.
But tough thing to say to a 14-year-old kid.
Yes.
Right? And then that day comes up, and he ended up probably in a place worse with regional mental health. I don't even think they have it anymore down on Highbury.
Yeah, no.
It was a zoo. It was a zoo, and I felt horrible. I couldn't even, and I felt like I had let him down. And luckily, I don't think he remembered that I let him down, but in my heart, I know I let him down. And then so at least I felt a little bit of satisfaction that my mom got to come to McCormick Home, and she made a lot of friends. And when she passed, she was here for 6 years, and
And the staff loved her.
The staff loved her, right? And I'm going to try and get through this. After she passed, they do an honor yard.
Mm-hmm.
And we come down and we didn't really know what to expect. And then we come down on the elevator with her, and someone says a poem. One of the nurses says a poem, and everyone's lined up. Every staff member and some residents, everyone's lined up. And one of the people who work with him just leaned into me and said, she said, "I loved your mom." And it means, it's a give and take relationship, right? She was giving something to everyone, and they were giving back. And when you're here for 6 years, you're part of the furniture, right? And
it's family.
It is family,
Mm-hmm.
and that person saying that, and I had been tough all day. All right, let's get through this. Practical. Let's do this. And she took me out at the knees. I was like, oh no. And anyway, so it was, and then as you know, I was over at Twee's house the next day, and we were going to talk about Fit for Care. And that was that night. And you said, come on over. Right? You were over at Twee's, and then we started talking more about Maggie's room. So, it was June 7th of not this year, but last year. And
did that hit a birthday or a Father's Day or an anniversary?
No, but she hit June again, so it's it's a busy month, that's for sure.
Yes. It's funny. I knew the anniversary was coming, and I did miss it. But I think maybe can we talk a little bit about your mom's time when she was here? Because
sure. I
think that was maybe as you first got a chance to know about the different activities, etc.
Yeah. So she liked to, as much as she could, love to participate. There would be choir songs coming in and different entertainment. She always loved that. She loved going outside in the garden. She was always a big gardener.
Yeah.
Loved roses. She liked, eventually, so very soon after she got here, she started losing the use of her legs. I'm not sure what happened. I can't remember now, but there was probably about 4 or 5 times where she got rushed to the hospital where we said, "Oh, this is it."
Yeah.
2 or 3 days later, she's like, "All right, let's go. Going back." Right?
Yeah,
so,
send me home.
So we're all prepared on numerous times that we thought this is it. She had COVID one time. She had a really bad cold. Another time, she had some gastro issues one time. But there was one time that she was immobile for a long time, and she was never really super stable. But she was in the hospital for a while, and she lost the use of her legs. Mm. And so, and again, Mom would be quite comfortable being wheeled around all day long. Again, makes her special. So that kind of changed things. They made it a little harder to get her over to our house.
Yes.
Right? So we used to pick her up and bring her over, and then have dinner at our house, and then bring her home. We lived just around the corner, so it made it a little harder then to bring her over. And so. And then she couldn't use her legs at all, and she was, a decent-sized woman, so you couldn't just pick her up and take her in. So, it's funny how you just lose parts of your family, piece by piece.
Yeah.
So, we had for many years, my wife and I would joke that our Saturday nights were, here come the seniors, right? And Syl's parents also live just down the road here, and they did. And then Elsie actually passed away. Syl's mom passed away very suddenly. And we thought she would be the winner, right? We thought she's the one who's living forever, right? So she was the most fit and tall and full of life, and just went like that, and very suddenly. And then my mom understood. She was still living at home at that time, that Elsie had then passed away. It was before she came to McCormick home. So then there's another empty seat at the table. And then, with my mom and her mobility issues, there's another empty seat at the table. So now we're just down with Sylvia's dad and Dave, and the guy with the most, way more health issues than anybody else. He's being put together with duct tape and snot. And still going, 89, going for 90, right? Says I can hit 95 if I want. So his seat's still at the table. But it's funny how just as time goes by, things happen. I know we were talking about, her time here. So if there was any kind of a trip when she was mobile, she would want to go on that. Again, the entertainment and she was at home here. This was her home.
Yeah.
And she was ready. She was, as I said, I don't think a lot of people, when they have to go to a place, if they're lucky enough to get the McCormick home lottery ticket, which she did, I think, whether you believe in wherever your faith lies, something made that happen. It wasn't me. I'd love to say I pulled some strings. It wasn't me. It happened for her.
Whether it's karma or whether she, put it out to the universe or whatever. Yeah, I agree. Whatever you want to say. And I've heard so many people refer to it as that lottery ticket.
Yep.
For sure. I mean, I think on a broad standard, long-term care has changed a lot especially over these last 5 years. And a lot of new standards have been put in place. And I think that most organizations are on par. I think the difference here at McCormick Home, of course, is the difference that donors make in terms of funding those extra
I can see that
pieces, because the government only funds so much.
Right.
And so I think, through this podcast, part of what we want to share to people is, life does go on and life does happen. But when they come to McCormick Home, they're coming here to live and enjoy their time that they're here.
Like everyone can do the basics, right? Yeah. As you said, everyone, and now as you're saying, I'm glad that the government regulations, not that I'm a big fan of government, but I'm glad that the standards are there.
Yeah.
But no one wants to live in the standards, all right? And what makes... I've been lucky enough to be at many of the fundraisers, being a part of the Fit for Care. And that's a good way for anybody who's listening who has someone, a loved one who is either living in McCormick Home or has lived in McCormick Home, and it's a part of our community. And we talk about this when we have our meetings, is that, this is part of the Riverbank community and the Byron community. And it's been around for, I don't know, how many
150 years?
150 years. I'm sure it says that somewhere.
Yeah.
So, 150 years of being a part of the community, we don't, it's just, for many people, I'm sure it's just a place to drive by on the corner of Keynes and Oxford. Yeah. But it's not. And and as I said, we know that for everybody in our community, the more we can put in, the more we can help out, participate. Let's do a plug for Maggie's Run. Come out and run at Maggie's Run.
We'll talk about that in just a second too.
The more we participate, the more money we can raise, and we can improve the quality of life for everybody. Yeah. Right? Or at least maintain how good it is here.
Well, and I want to just share on a couple of components there, because, from a foundation perspective, we fund a lot of different things, but I shouldn't say a lot of different things, but a few different things. And but when it comes to the day-to-day activities, that is, those are things that are making a difference in the here and now for people here and now, both in the day program as well as in McCormick Home. But I think what also makes McCormick special is the fact that there are key learnings that come out of what kind of activities are performing better, or how can we utilize these extra monies to make sure that we are maximizing the impact for individuals. Right. And so because of the network within the long-term care space, not just even within the London community, but beyond, the teams share those best practices, those knowledges that are gained. So it really does have a broader impact. It starts here first, for sure. Yeah. But it has a broader impact. And,
I can see that. Yeah.
Goes farther. And that's where our Learning and Development Center, that, as you know, from the Ritz Gala, we're on a fundraising campaign to fund that. That will make a huge difference that translating that knowledge from what we do on a day-to-day basis.
This is what we do here. This is what we get. And you get the more you learn, the better it is for everyone.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think it's important. I feel sometimes people think, oh, well, my parent isn't at McCormick Home, so why would I?
Yeah.
Why would I help? But that is the why.
Yeah.
Because it goes beyond.
And as you said, part of our community, but none of us are getting out of here alive, right?
No.
No. Maybe my kids, maybe they'll have immortality, but most of us are going to end up going through the same thing, and that's a bitter. When I've had my grandmother, my father, my mother, if I forget someone's name, I'm in full panic mode because I'm like, here it goes, here we go.
Yeah.
And when I have 50 employees, we have 30 doctors. My phone rings off. I get 300 emails a day. I'm going to forget stuff. I'm going to miss stuff.
Yeah.
And so I have to be easier on myself not to go into full panic mode. And just as you get older, you have those senior moments. But, what is the great, a society is considered great when old men plant trees they'll never sit under the shade of. And so we have to be able to give back to our community. We have to be able to, and again, right here, we're in this community. I know we've had, with our different events, they're sold out. They're fun. They're good events, and such incredible stories. And people come out and they share their story.
Yes.
And
that is a really powerful thing when people come together because they do share those stories with each other.
Everyone's motivated. Just jump up and say, "Hey, I did that," or "My mom did that," or the gentleman who stood up at the last Ritz Gala and said, "I have it. I have dementia. This is what I'm dealing with," right? And eloquent speech and just heartfelt. And you think,
and I'm chuckling only because he stood up with a big endorsement and then made sure everybody knew that he wasn't being paid to say the endorsement.
Right. Yeah. But we're sitting there going, "Are you sure? You sure you have it?" Because you're just so, But that's the thing, is that a lot of people, they start having those problems. And I think with my dad, the difference between the way my mom handled it, when my dad handled it, I think my dad handled it as a real threat to his masculinity, to his identity, and he really was in denial the whole time.
Yeah.
He didn't really think. He really thought these things, it wasn't him. And yet my mom was like, "Oh, bloody hell. Can't remember it. I'm getting the Alzheimer's."
Oh.
Right? But she would not embrace it, but I know she was scared, but she was like, "Well, what's next then? This is stiff upper lip. Let's keep going. What's the best thing? Oh, I'm going to go there. Oh, I'm going to get my chocolates." Right?
Yes.
So finding, you said it earlier, finding another family or a bigger family. I'm an only child, if you hadn't figured that out. So we didn't have a big family. And my mom came from a massive family. And this year we actually went to England and took some of her ashes and put it with her sister. My mom's sister had 7 kids. Wow. And they all had probably 10 each, or, just like it was so many people there, right? Yeah. And she grew up there. And she grew up as, she was 18 years younger than her sister. So she was the baby of the family, and she always got treated as the baby of the family. So it was really nice to go back to England, to Snape in England, which was near Ipswich, and put her ashes, where she spent a good chunk of her life, right with her sister, on top of her sister.
And so back to having that conversation about Maggie's run and the naming to honor your mom. And I think you'll recall I immediately said, "I think that's a brilliant idea."
Well, we were already sponsoring, right? Mm-hmm. We wanted to give back. When Twee calls, you pretty much have to answer it and do whatever she says. She's quite mean if you don't listen to her. That's not true.
She would disagree.
But she's insistent, let's say it that way. And but she hit me at the right time when she said, I think you should be someone who should be on the committee for this.
Mm-hmm.
And so I joined the committee and we came up with the idea of the run, and let's do something a little bit different. Because
that was the year we were moving out of the virtual world into the real
That's
world
right.
again.
That's right.
And so it was a perfect opportunity.
So let's all come out together. And so we did the run, and it was somewhat modest success. I know we covered our costs, maybe brought in a little bit of money.
Mm-hmm.
And then as we're getting ready to do the next year of it, when I was actually thinking, I wonder if we can, I didn't want to say, well, I'm the sponsor, let's make it Maggie's run, but Mom upped the ante by passing away,
Yes.
and so she did her part. So then we, over at Twee's house, I said, look, I had this idea, and I said, I don't know what you guys think about it. I don't want to say it just because it's me asking, but why don't we name this after my mom? And, it was clear that not only had McCormick made a major impact on my mom's life, but I think my mom made an impact on McCormick's
Mm-hmm.
life. And I thought, if we can personalize this, and one of the things I think that we've always, as I just said, the greater success is when you hear people's stories and you can relate to that. It's not just, a name in a newspaper. It's the life behind it. And my mom was always a very, very caring person. She spent her life caring about other people. And that's what people here at McCormick do. They're caring about other people.
Mm-hmm.
So, I thought it would be a nice testimonial or a testament to her memory.
Mm-hmm.
And we're proud of it. And it's sort of a bit more of a family thing. My niece, who I mentioned, is up here now working with us for the summer, and she's a runner herself, so she's helping out, getting some other sponsors and helping some of our clients train for it and stuff like that.
Yeah, she's really dynamite.
Yeah, she's the passion for running. So when she was looking for a job, I said, I can give you a job. In fact, maybe you can help us with Maggie's run. And she probably met my mom maybe 5 times, right? Her whole life. Mainly when she was a little girl. So she's happy to be not only working and getting paid, but she's happy to be doing something that's, a part of her family as well.
Yeah, well, and meaningful for the whole community too.
Yep.
So for people who don't know, maybe share a little bit about Maggie's run, or I can jump in, but I think it's better if it comes from you.
Okay. So Maggie's Run is September 14th this year. It's on a Saturday this year. Yeah. So we started off, we do a couple of different things. We do this year we've upped it doing, actually I'll start at the bottom. We do a small walk, a 1 kilometer walk with the residents. Mm-hmm. They walk, and we have a little route for that. We have a 2.5K route, but I don't think we're doing that this year, are we?
I mean, if people want to do 2.5K, they can.
They can,
but we haven't mapped out the 2.5.
Okay,
we're just sticking with the 5, right. I think.
So before we've done the 1 kilometer walk, the 2.5K walk, and then the 5K run.
Yeah.
We're kind of upping it this year, where we're actually getting timed bibs. Mm-hmm. We're going big league. We're having a 10K run. We're having a 5K run. You can get an official time. Mm-hmm. So we're hoping to get a lot more sort of seasoned runners out there.
Yeah.
I'm sure my placing is going to go dramatically lower this year. But we had some good runners out, and it's been amazing to see some really fantastic athletes come out.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can get more people. We got more sponsors. We're going to have a great day here with all the sponsors and a barbecue, and really happy that St. Anne's Church is helping out this year, and which is my mom's church, and they heard about it and they were just jumping on board, wanting to help, and I think they raised some money last year, and it's just a really good, feel-good day, and it's kind of nice to see. I'm sure you get a lot of satisfaction out of this, is where you actually see it all come together. All right, you see all these volunteers, and you see all the residents, and everybody's out.
Yeah, I honestly have to say, the first year, I just didn't know how that was all going to come together. And but boy, when it went into full swing, it really felt good. It was like, oh my God, it's working.
Yeah, people are here. People are running. Right?
It's fun. And then, and so, with a year under your belt, you feel a little more confident about things. And last year, I think, was even better. And I love when people afterwards come to us and they say, that was so well organized. You could have had like triple the amount of people here and wouldn't have missed a beat.
Hopefully this year we will.
Right. So, But also this year we have our wellness fair, which is really ramping up, and Beck Hearing Aids are sponsoring the wellness fair. And so I have to give a shout out to Peter Hawkins from St. Anne's Church, because he knew your mom, and he knew he really cared about her.
Yeah.
And when he saw the billboard at the side of the street and saw that MedPoint was a part of it, he connected with you, then connected with us. And then, and this year he came and he said, Michelle, I want to do something more. I have an idea. And so he came up with this idea of the event program and selling advertising space. And I tell you, I think he has approached between 100 to 150 businesses.
Wow.
He has knocked on all of their doors. And right now he's probably, I lost count. I should have had that number top of mind, but I'm going to say about 6 or 7 organizations and companies that focus on wellness within our community.
Awesome.
Who are going to be attending our wellness fair as well, to, just to be part of that day. And people are really excited about it. And what I wanted to share with you was he said to me, when I go out, if you can prepare something for me so I can leave it with people. And first and foremost, you got to tell people who Maggie was, because that's what people want to know.
Yeah.
And he did say to me, people say, who's Maggie? And I'm like, well, it's right here.
Yeah.
But anyways, they want to hear it from him.
Yeah.
And because he had that personal connection with your mom.
Yeah, they were in the choir together, and he often would drive my mom home from choir, and he's a special guy.
Yeah, he really is.
Yeah.
Anyways, I can't say enough kind things about him. But then, as well, is his engagement with St. Anne's he's going to be putting up a sign-up sheet for volunteers. So volunteers are always needed if anybody's listening out there and would like to volunteer. So our goal this year is to raise $65,000. It's a good increase from our $50,000 from last year, but
which was a massive increase from the year before.
That's right. So we just hold the course and keep on going, but most importantly, focusing on having a good time.
Yep.
And making it fun for everyone.
Yeah, and again, I'm honored. As MedPoint, we've sponsored this. We're in year 2 of a 5-year commitment. So we're in it for the long haul.
Yeah.
And we want to continue this to grow and this become an annual thing, not just for the Riverbend and West 5 and our community out here, but for all of London. We want people from all over London to come out. We've had the softball team from baseball, Western, come out last year and volunteer. So
they have a tournament this year. Sadly, they're not able to make it. But
so we'll find someone else.
Yeah, exactly.
What's the swimming team doing?
Right. Okay. Yes. Good. So well, Alex, I want to say thank you so much for sharing.
It's my pleasure.
Your story, and it's really quite inspiring. Yeah, it's really inspiring, and I know it will be helpful for people who have been listening. Thank you also for your sponsorship, your volunteer time and support to help us get Maggie's Run up and going and making it such an amazing event. I really appreciate all that you do.
And thank you for the opportunity for it, and to allow my mom's name to continue on in such a positive way. Thank you.
Well, thanks everyone for joining us. I hope you learned something new today, and we look forward to seeing you at Maggie's Run.